let me just finish here. So you're on the Guilderland High School website, and you scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says Counseling Center. You click there. And then it brings us to this page, and you click on our Counseling Center website link. And then, so on this site, we update it routinely and regularly with lots of different information, and I'm going to be highlighting a few things. So I'm actually going to start out. Oh, yeah, he can go. Yeah, that's right. I forgot to introduce myself. Okay. So my name is Karen Murphy. I'm one of the high school counselors. I have Mrs. Knapp here, Amy Knapp. We have Jen Lunetta standing out back right there. She's waving. And then we have Lynn Baumgartner, Candace Galarno, and Ashley Kaplan. And Ashley had another event that she had to go to, but she might be coming later when we have the college fair. And so Amy and I will be answering any questions at any point. If you have a question, please raise your hand. I'll just repeat it so it can be recorded for others to hear. So we're on the Counseling Center website, and Amy, if you can go to the 12th grade calendar. I'm just going to use that as our framework for now. Okay. And so on the calendar, I'm not going to go through every date, but I'm just going to highlight a couple. Obviously, tonight we have the college application process. I'll get to those details shortly. After this event, we have our fall college fair in the West Gym. So after this, you can go head right over there. It's kind of perfect timing. Tomorrow morning, we have Katie Salzda from Siena College joining us here at 8:30 in the morning. And so we've let seniors know, we've let teachers know, bring your classes down so you can get information on writing the college essay. So some students have already started that process, others haven't. So if you haven't, that's fine. Katie's going to share her knowledge and wisdom. She's been in the admissions field for a very long time. We rely on Katie a lot for lots of different things. What else is on here? So we have a drop-in date. We had one earlier in August. We have another one for parents and students on October 1st, and that's if students and parents need help. Well, students need help with filling out their college applications. They're welcome to do a drop-in. We're all there. We can help. Doesn't necessarily have to meet with your counselor. Students are meeting with whoever's available. We're kind of working the room that way. October 8th, there's a financial aid evening program for parents and students. It's going to review the CSS profile and then the FAFSA. The CSS profile is one form that some colleges use, not all colleges use for financial aid, and it's on the College Board website. College Board is the company that owns SAT. So if you're not sure if the application to the college that you'll be applying to, if the college requires the CSS profile, you can check it on that website. There's a list of colleges that use the CSS profile. The FAFSA is delayed until December 1st. We're still having this event, this program on October 8th because it's likely the same information that you're going to need and just generally understand when the FAFSA becomes available in December. So we have that. A really important, 2 weeks, I think. It's not a week anymore. So SUNY is offering that free application for 5 colleges in the SUNY system. This is a great opportunity for students and families. So normally each application is $50 each. So this way you're saving a lot of money. Students would be completing the application and submitting it within that week. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the school's deadline for admission, although it does overlap an early action deadline. Most early action deadlines are November 1st. So if the student is applying early action November 1st, it does cross over into that free week. And so that's kind of nice. You save some money. If the student is not applying early action, say at a later deadline, they just need to submit and complete the application so they can have that free application. So, and we work with students. We're meeting with them currently, and we go over all that as well. Yeah, so the SUNY application, you don't have to use, the student doesn't have to use the SUNY application for the free week. It can be used also on the Common App, which I'm going to show shortly for you all. The other thing that we have, it's an event that we've been running for a very long time. It's called our Instant Admit Day. And we have a number of colleges, local colleges, that come to the high school October 28th. It's a Thursday, or I'm sorry, October 24th. It's a Thursday. This is for students only, so parents don't come to this. We meet with our seniors, and any student who wishes to apply to any of those colleges that are listed there on the instant admit date, we get those done ahead of time, and then the students actually meet with the admissions counselors, and they find out on that day if they get accepted to that particular college. They also find out in some cases, like Siena and Russell Sage, if they are awarded any scholarship money. So they find out about acceptance. They also find out about scholarship money, which is kind of nice. And the only one that's a little bit different is SUNY Albany. Kids aren't filling out the applications for that date. It's a transcript review. So our SUNY Albany admissions people come in, they review the transcript, and then they kind of advise students on next steps, about applications and so forth. What else do we have? So we will have an event sometime December, January about completing the FAFSA, as it's around in that time. We haven't nailed that down yet. As the year goes on, senior surveys, that's down the road in May, so that's when students and families decide on the one college that their child will be going to, and we do that much later. So there's a lot of work to be done before that, and that comes later. Senior Awards Evening Program, of course, graduation. Mark your calendars. It's June 27th at 11 a.m. It is a work day. And it's at the MVP Center. And then on the bottom of our calendar are the test dates for the SATs and the ACTs for any students who wish to retake them this fall, and the deadline's there. So you will notice that there are some test dates that are not here at Guilderland, so students would have to take those tests at a different high school, and that's a part of the registration when you do that online. Okay, any questions about the calendar? So I'm going to jump into, let's see, what are we doing next? I'm going to just show you, we created a common application. And so one of the counselors, Ashley Kaplan, this is her common application. We just created an account to kind of point out and highlight some things. So let's start, Mrs. Knapp. So a lot of students, not everybody, a lot of students are using the common application. So students who are applying to four-year colleges, a lot of them tend to create a common application. Hundreds and hundreds of colleges use the common application, so it tends to kind of work in the student's best interest to create a common app account. So let's go over to where it says college search. Let's just kind of figure out, all right, how do I add a college onto my common application? Now, we are sitting down with seniors. We've sent an email to seniors. We are inviting them in. We sent them a link to our calendar where we have set up calendar appointments so students can decide on when they want to come in and see their counselor. And then we sit down, we go over all of this. So some students, we meet them where they are. So some students haven't created a Common App account, we create it with them. Or if they're applying to Hudson Valley Community College, we do that with them in our office at our senior meeting. And then we go through the process of it all. All right, so you put one in? Okay, so we added Oneonta. Well, all right, we added the word Oneonta, and there's two schools that come up. There's Hartwick College. Let's add them both, because one's a public and one's a private. So SUNY Oneonta is a public university of the SUNY system. Hartwick College is a private college, both in Oneonta. So if we go back to my colleges, we can see those three colleges there on the list. So as students decide on which colleges they're applying to, they look them up, they can add them onto their common application. Mrs. Knapp, can you click on, yep, go there. So Common App. So these are the common part of the application that all colleges will see when students fill out. So the student's going to go through and fill out the profile, which is basically their name, address, demographics, all that kind of stuff. Then they're going to move on to family. That's family information, parents, guardians, siblings, that kind of thing. They would go through and answer those questions. And then what we do is we sit down with students and we complete the education section of the Common Application together, because it's just easier for sitting there doing that with students. It just makes it easier. So the education section, we find Guilderland High School, we add that in. The dates of attendance, we add that in. We just kind of go through everything that you see with the green check. That means it's been filled in correctly, because we're working on it with the students. When we get to this section here, which section is that? This is about the courses that they're taking, how many students are in the graduating class. So some of this information might not be too readily available to students. That's why we complete it with them. So it's not hard. It's just kind of, it's a little tedious, a little red tapey, but we get through it. This is where we add in the GPA information, which is now on Naviance. So all the students have an unofficial initial transcript on their Naviance account. So they can see all of their courses, all of their grades. They can see their unweighted grade point average and their weighted grade point average. We do everything by the students' unweighted grade point average, but colleges will see both GPAs on the transcript. And that's actually a question that comes up a lot. How is that determined? Weighted GPAs determined by college level courses, AP level courses, and honors courses. So it gives a little bit of a bump. Oh, good. There's Ashley. She's here. So that's on there as well. So going back to, we're just toggling back and forth. The other thing that's on here, we list the students' courses. Is that on this page here? So we go to current year courses and we fill that in. So, so colleges can see, the student reports. I'm in college writing, for example, if that's what they're taking for their English, and then I'm in pre-calculus or I'm in Math 12N. So they list the courses there, and we kind of direct them, okay, is it a dual enrollment class? Is it a college prep class? PE is considered like a regular standard type class in terms of level of instruction. So we just kind of work through that. So if we go back up, so let's hop over to testing. Yes, so the question is, are the courses that are listed there for the senior year? Yes, those are senior year courses, and that's what's shown. And then keep in mind, when the student applies to college, we attach their official transcript, and it lists all of the courses, all of the grades, all of that on the transcript. So a college will see not only what's recorded on the Common Application with the senior year courses, they'll see eventually the transcript with all grades and courses. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, all right. So let's go to the testing section. So Common App and colleges are asking, that statement up there, it's hard to see, but basically it's asking, does the student wish to self-report their SATs, their ACTs, their AP scores? So there's two answers. Yes, I wish to self-report, or no, I do not. If you check off either one, it's totally fine. There's no disadvantage if you say no. It just means that the student is not self-reporting. They're just choosing not to share on the application. So why would somebody do that? Well, a student might choose to do that if they're applying to colleges that have test optional SAT or ACT, so they don't require them for admission, it's test optional. So let's say a student scores a 1200 on their SAT or 27 on their ACT, very respectable scores. Those are awesome scores. But let's say they're applying to a college that is test optional and actually wants scores higher than that. So if you self-report on the application, then you're showing everyone the score that the student received. Does that make sense? So if you say, no, I'm not self-reporting, you're just not self-reporting it, and then the student and parents would decide, all right, I'm going to send my scores, my SAT and or my ACT scores, to the colleges that require them or where they are within the range of what they would normally accept. So we can talk about it. Sometimes students kind of wait to say yes or no because maybe they took an SAT or an ACT last spring or maybe this August. They have some scores, but they're signed up for an October test, a November or December test. So maybe they're waiting depending on, what their score comes back with. So those are some things we can talk about and decide. So if you want to hold, if the student wishes to hold off, we have time before the earlier application deadlines, which are typically November 1st. So there is time, to make that kind of a decision. What else do we have? Let's go to the activity section. So Common App allows students they want students to talk about things that they're involved with beyond school, beyond your classes. So we all have a schedule. We come to school 7:30 to 2:30. They know that. These are things that you do outside of the classroom. Could be school-based activities, could be community-based type activities, sports, all of the things that students do. You have up to 10 activities. The student has up to 10 activities that they can self-report on. So, your number one activity should be the one that you spend the most time with, the thing that you're most passionate about, you're most interested in, and then you just kind of go from there. We can help students with this section, kind of wordsmithing it because I think there's only 150 characters that you're allowed to have in describing the activity. So sometimes it's hard to squinch it all in. So we can help with that. Certainly parents can help with that. But that's kind of what it would look like. So there's quite a few things that students can add in. So hobbies, for example. There's family responsibilities. We have some students who have to go home and help out with siblings or other family members. So there's a broad range of ways of describing what students do. And I don't want anybody to think, oh, I only did that in 9th grade, it's not that important. Well, if you have one space left, you might as well add it in because you have up to 10 things to report about. All right, what's next here? Let's go to yes. Yes, so the question is it just the high school years? Yes, so it's just the high school years because when the student fills out the activity, it just says grades 9 through 12. So it would have to, of course, sometimes there's things that people start at middle school and they carry it over to high school, but it would be 9 through 12. Okay, the writing section. So this is where the student is going to choose the essay prompts. So those prompts are below. And then if you scroll down a little further, students would write their essay and copy and paste it into that box right there. So the essay is not that long. It's between 250 words and 650 words. So sometimes it's actually harder to edit something down. Sometimes we get in the, we've learned to kind of write a little bit more for our English essays, which are great, but this is one where you have to really tailor it down. It will cut the student's essay off if it's beyond 650 words, so that's why you want to make sure you edit it. I'm just going to point out this last thing, courses and grades, if you can go there. So it says 0 because basically so when a student is adding colleges onto their Common application, they're going to add them on and they're going to see where it says courses and grades, and 0 simply means is that the colleges that the student is applying to doesn't require the student to self-report their transcript. Now, if there's a college on there, I'm trying to think which one. Is it Penn State? Anyway, there's some colleges that do require students to self-report their transcript. It's going to take the student between 10 and 15 minutes, I know, because I've done that with some students before. It's just a little tedious, but they want this, they want the student to say, grade 9, I took English 9, global history 1, algebra, all of that, and then what the corresponding grade is and that kind of thing. So it doesn't really take long. It's just a little on the tedious side. We can help guide students if they have to do that. So the 3 that are on Ashley's list, they don't require it, so that we don't have to do it. We wouldn't have to do it. And for the most part, it doesn't come up very often, but on occasion it does. So I usually say when I see that with a student, oh, you're lucky, you get to self-report your transcript. Okay. Let's scroll up and go to My Colleges. So here we are back at our list. We've got 4 colleges on. It's very easy to add them onto the Common App. So this is great information. So Hartwick College, we can see their fall application deadline. They have what's called rolling admissions. So students can apply, does that say July what? 29th. You can apply up to July 29th of 2025. Well, we wouldn't advise students to do that, even though they accept applications all the way up to that point. We would encourage students to apply basically when they're applying with other colleges. Okay, Oneonta, they have, they have 2 admissions. Oh, well, there you go. Now I can see. We have 2 admissions policies at SUNY Oneonta. There's an early action November 15th deadline. And remember, if the student wants to get that free application, they would just have to submit it by November 3rd, I think, right? Is that what I said? Yep. November 3rd is the end of the free week for the SUNY applications. So they have early action November 15th. They have a regular decision of April 1st. So anytime the student sees early action, it means that they're applying early by November 15th if they wish to do that. They find out early if they get accepted. So anywhere between typically December 15th and January 15th. So anywhere in that window of time, generally speaking, that's when colleges let students know if they've been accepted. If a student applies regular decision, so in this case for Oneonta, it's April 1st, they might not find out until maybe mid-April if they were accepted. So they're, you're just going to wait a little bit longer. Yep. So the question is early action better? I encourage, or I think generally we all encourage early action because let's just say, for example, the student applies early action and they don't get accepted. Well, there's 3 answers: accepted, deferred, and denied. So, of course, we like the first one. That's our first choice. We want students to get accepted, and they want to as well. The second is deferred, which means that they would defer their decision to the regular deadline. So basically, the student has another bite at the apple of trying to get accepted. So in this way, it just kind of gets things done. We don't want to rush people, but we're still in September. We have lots of time. So there's another policy of admissions, or I don't think Cortland, or what was the other school that was on there? Do they have early decision? Oh, UConn, yeah, okay, good. All right, so University of Connecticut, UConn, they have early decision, not early action, and they have, they call it priority deadline, so December 1st. And then they have their special programs, which are for select number of people, but that would be at graduate level or undergraduate level. That might be combined programs. Okay, so early decision is like early action, where the student applies early. Then they find out early if they get accepted. The big thing with early decision is you can only do this with one college, is you're making a binding agreement with that particular college. So so if that's the student chooses early decision for UConn, and they say early action for Oneonta and any others, they find out from UConn that they got accepted. So they're saying, okay, I bound to go to you if you accepted me, and you accepted me, so I'm going to withdraw my applications from all other colleges. Yes? So the question is the aid package different if you apply early action or early decision? That's a good question. So when, sorry.
Sorry, we were having technical problems earlier. I wanted to make sure we didn't mess it up. So honestly, the answer to that is it depends. Some colleges, they haven't given out all of their aid yet, so that they're actually more generous if you're applying early. Other colleges, you're right. They say, you want to come here, you'll figure out how to make it work. So unfortunately, there isn't a magic formula. It really varies from college to college. But some colleges also have scholarships, like UConn. It says with their priority deadline, it says for money and honors, so that there is more opportunity if you apply by their priority deadline. They should be, because they're the ones who have to deal with it. But if you go on the college's website and do the net price calculator, and it actually may, I've seen a couple of colleges do that. I'm not sure all of the colleges do it, but in terms of what is available to you at a certain date based on when you're applying can be part of the formula that is part of the net price calculator.
Yeah, those are good questions. Those are sometimes hard things to figure out because again, students aren't applying for the FAFSA until December 1st. That's not even out yet. And all colleges require the FAFSA if you're seeking financial aid. Some colleges require the CSS profile, not all of them do. That one you can do earlier because it opens October 1st. So so those are, you can always reach out to the financial aid office at a college. You can email them. You can call the admissions office, or email, and then just kind of run it by. Statistically speaking, though, if we looked at just the numbers in terms of statistics, students have a better chance of acceptance when they apply early action and early decision. Now, early decision is a big commitment because you're making a binding agreement. Not everybody is prepared to do that. Very few, students and families are all in on one particular college. There are some, but not everybody is. But that's something to think about. And and if a student, if for UConn, for example, if they didn't, if they like UConn, they visited, yeah, I really like it, but I don't know if I, want to commit to going. I want to see what my other options are, then I would say don't apply early decision because you don't want to be kind of like, checked into that. Yes, so the question is about early decision. Is there a way out of early decision? Technically, yes, but like I think people in general kind of think about, all right, I've already made provisions to make it happen. If they can't force you to go, they can't force somebody to go to a school that they ultimately can't afford. The family can't afford. Oh, it's not green. Oh gosh. Okay. So those are some things that, yes. So officially, is there a way out? Yes, there is. And so what we need is, so when a student signs up for early decision, we give them this handy dandy form. We're signing it, basically saying, oh, you have agreed and your family has agreed to do early decision. I sign off, UConn, and then the student brings it back. They've signed off. Their parents signed off, telling us that they're committed to going to the school if they get accepted. Now, if they get released from early decision because of, let's say there was an issue with, affording to go and ultimately the student family can't afford, we would just need an email saying that they've been released. Because basically we're not going to send out more application documents for students who are already supposed to be committed for a school that they agreed to do early decision with. It's not a big deal. It doesn't happen very often. We handle it. It's fine. So The other thing I just wanted to say is that wherever you are in this process, a lot of times kids come in, or I'll talk to parents and they're like, I'm so far behind. Don't worry. You are where you are, and we just move forward with wherever you are. It all gets done. We do this with each student, so don't be in a panic, if you're concerned. I would say the thing that I think holds a lot of people up tends to be, like around the essay. They're, hemming and hawing about it. Basically, the application is really not that hard to fill out. If anybody's filled out a job application, students, it's kind of like that, except for it's on steroids a little bit, because there's a lot more information. All right, so here we are. We just toggled over to Naviance. So when the student comes in, makes their appointment with their counselor, we get them all set up with Common App or any other application that they're using for their colleges. And not all colleges use the Common App. I'll give you an example. So I met with a student the other day, and he's applying to Endicott. Well, Endicott doesn't use the Common Application. That's okay. So we set up an account on Endicott, just like we did with the Common App, but it's just for Endicott. And then we started filling some things out, and that's fine. So whatever college the student is applying to, they need to add it onto their Naviance account. And so we're not going to match, because we're not that sophisticated with our pretend students. But up in that corner, you can see that red button. It says Match Accounts. And so what we do is when we sit down with students, after we get into the Common App, we fill out some things. We go over to Naviance, and we click on that red button to match the account. So basically, it's Naviance and Common App are now matched, connected. They're speaking to each other, and that way it allows us to send things electronically from Naviance to Common App. Now, for those colleges that are not on Common App, we still send things electronically. So it's fine if a student's not using the Common Application. So we do that as well. Let me just, can you go back to the Common App? Because I didn't talk about FERPA, and I'm going to do my best not to get into the weeds about this. Okay, so FERPA is, all right, if anybody knows, so probably all the adults know, and a fair amount of students know. If anybody knows what HIPAA means when you go to your doctor, FERPA is basically the same kind of concept with education. So it's under high schools and colleges. FERPA stands for Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, so it was a law. And students have to complete this part on the Common Application, and likely other applications as well. And first of all, FERPA, the student has to give permission to school to release their records. You want us to release your records, because colleges can't make a decision unless they have your transcript and other documents. But the big thing about the FERPA is related to your letters of recommendation from teachers. So students have two options. They can either waive their right to access or not waive their right to access. So we will always recommend students waive the right to access. And what that means is, by waiving the right, this is the student waiving the right, it lets the colleges know that the student does not intend to read the letters of recommendation from their teachers, which is the way it's supposed to be. And it also helps reassure the colleges that the letters from the teachers are candid and truthful. So when a student asks a teacher for a letter of recommendation, they ask them in person initially. They've done this last spring. If they haven't yet, they're going to do that tomorrow or this week. They're going to ask at least one, possibly two teachers. You don't need a ton. And if the teacher says, yes, I'd be happy to write your letter of recommendation. If a teacher says, no, you should ask somebody else, then that's the student's message to go ask somebody else, because maybe they might not write favorable things. That hardly ever happens. Nobody's out to get anybody and prevent them from going to college. So teachers are generally saying yes. Sometimes they say no because they've already committed to writing 30 letters already, and they're tapped out. So that's where they might say no. So here we always recommend students to waive the right, but they have the choice. And then they would understand by clicking that box after they type in their name and then the date that they can't go back and change it. So when that is done, and then we match the accounts with Naviance to the Common application, teachers see, oh, Johnny or Susie have waived their right, so that the teacher sees that. Or Johnny or Susie did not waive their right, they'll see that as well. Now, just because the student intends to read their letters of recommendation, they don't have access to that until they go to college. So the college admissions office would have to provide those letters and make those available to students. That's the way I understand it. So that's what that is. So I know there's sometimes, of course we all want to read a letter of recommendation about, I'm the same way. I want to know what people have written about me. But that's the process. When the student is in college, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to ask a professor to write a letter when they go to, a graduate program or medical school or, law school or wherever they're going, or a future employer. Say they finish their bachelor's and they're ready to go in the world of work. So it's the same concept. The letter doesn't go to the student and then to, the third party. It goes directly to the college. Yep. So the question is about how does the teacher know when to send their letters of recommendation to the colleges? So when the student, when they're matching in Naviance, the deadlines for their applications will be in Naviance. So it'll pull that information over from Common App. If it's not updated on Common App, it can easily be updated in Naviance. So the student wants to make sure their deadlines are updated. And we can work with them on that. So the teacher letter gets uploaded by the teacher, and there's a student side to Naviance, and then there's the teacher side to Naviance. So students don't have access to the teacher side of Naviance. So we upload things electronically on our side, and then we send things electronically. So this, the student really wants to connect with their teachers and say, hey, my first application, or I have my earliest deadline is November 1st. We'll just use that as an example. And then, you would want to, just make sure the teacher knows. You don't want to go on October 31st to say I have a November 1st deadline. So you want to give them well enough time. We require, when we sit down with students, we require our office, because we have to do a letter, and then there's other online forms that we have to complete. We ask for about 2 weeks. So, so if it's a November 1st deadline, then we're looking about mid-October that we need that information back from students. So, yep. Yeah, so the question is, do letters of recommendation only come from teachers? No, they can come from an employer, a club advisor. Sometimes we have students who are doing research, like, with professors outside. So there is a way to ask recommenders. Are you under recommenders? Oh, okay. I think if you go back to the FERPA thing. So, typically speaking, if the student is using the Common App, there is a counselor section, and we tend to write the letter as part of the part of the stuff that we complete. Yeah, so Common App kind of like, here's the counselor section. So we're writing probably anywhere between 45 and 60 letters, just if you have that many students applying. That's why we ask for the 2 weeks, because we want to make sure. I mean, I'm getting good at writing a letter of recommendation on the fly, really good. But I would rather not do that. I'd rather take my time, think about the person. While I'm driving to school, I'm thinking about the person. I'm going through their documents. I'm making notes. I'd rather take my time and do that. We all do that. So I'd rather not do it on the fly. So, yeah, can we get things there by a certain date? Yeah, but we really want to have that time to really make sure it looks great. Yep. So the counselor letter is kind of like it's separate from what the teachers. So sometimes the college will say, we require 2 letters from teachers. So then the student would have to ask 2 teachers, and then they would indicate their teacher names in Naviance. But that's separate from the counselor letter. So technically, the college would get 3 because they get 1 from us and then 2 from the teachers. I would just say this. I would say we want to follow the instructions. Just because the student could get 10 letters, which is fantastic, they know a lot of people who are really excited about them and want to write a letter of recommendation. Keep in mind, colleges are receiving between anywhere from 40,000 to 80,000 applications. So that's an additional 40,000 to 80,000 letters that they would have to be reading or more. So we just kind of want to, if they ask for 1, we want to give them 1. If they want 2, we'll give them 2. We don't want to inundate them with letters from a number of other people, say outside of school. So we try to just try to keep it to what they want. And we show students where we can see this college wants 1 letter, this college wants 2, this college will take up to 4. You don't need 4 teachers. We'll just send the 2 that you have, plus you have the counselor 1. That's more than enough. That's plenty. All right. Okay. It wouldn't go. Okay. There is a section, and we work with students on that in the for letters of recommendation. It's not working for us right now. That's okay. But when we sit down with students, we go through that. We add the name. The student adds the name to the to Naviance, and then the teacher gets an email from Naviance. Oh, you've already agreed to write, Johnny's letter of recommendation. Once they receive that email, they can upload, work on it, and then upload their letter and send it. So keep in mind, this whole process is deadline driven. And so it's you got to pay attention to, you're going to have different deadlines depending on the colleges that the student is applying to. They're all not the same, and that's okay. You just got to kind of mark it somewhere on the calendar. So where was I going with this? I just lost my train of thought. Yeah. Darn it. Yep. That's where I was going. Thank you. You got me back on track. All right. Sorry. So there's 3 people that are involved with the application. There's the student, there's the counselor, and then the teacher or teachers. 3 parties. We're all not going to get together and say hit send all at the same time. Okay. So very likely the counselor and the teacher might send their stuff far earlier than the deadline because we have it ready and we're not going to wait on it. We're not going to wait until November 1st or October 31st to send it. So the student, doesn't have to wait for me. They don't have to wait for their teachers. Sometimes I know why students kind of get confused. Oh, my teacher didn't send my letter in, and you can see it on Naviance. It'll say initial materials were sent, so then somebody has sent something. Or it might say in process, so that means they didn't send it. So, and anytime a student is concerned about it and they're like, oh, my teacher hasn't sent anything yet, what should I do? We help them with that process. We kind of help communicate, like, hey, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, this has got to get there by a certain date. So, so that's kind of how that works. So students are never waiting for anyone. If the deadline for the student, remember, it's the student application. The student has to get their application by that deadline. And I always recommend that you back it up a few days and send it. I mean, you can send it on the day that it's due, but, just in case something glitches out, you don't want to be in a situation where you can't send it. So, I'm trying to think what else. Yeah?
So teachers really are working on deadlines, so I try to encourage students not to panic if their teacher hasn't submitted the letter of recommendation. They will. Teachers don't miss deadlines, but they might have students whose applications are due for a particular scholarship or something before that student's application. So even if the student got everything to them by September 24th, it may not go in until the deadline of November 1st. They have their own system, but students shouldn't panic. The deadline really is the student's deadline. Most colleges, not every, but most colleges allow the transcript, the letters of recommendation to come in after that deadline, a week to 2 weeks. Some schools have a month that they can be turned in. So the student shouldn't panic about that. The other thing is with the Common Application, colleges can't access anything until the student's application is submitted. So even if the teacher submits it a week ahead of the student, it's just sitting there waiting for the student's application to be submitted. So they shouldn't panic about that either. Once their application gets submitted, then the college has access to the other documents that are submitted on the student's behalf.
Okay, I think I'm going to switch gears away from the Common App, but if anybody has any more questions, you're welcome to ask. Let's go back to the Counseling Center website, and let's, up there where, oh yeah, you're there. So where it says financial aid and scholarships, there we go. Oh, is it there? Okay, that's okay. Okay, so we post things. Actually, we just posted this, which everybody should have got this Parent Square message. And now we get scholarships that come into our office that we do. Some of them we send out to the community. Now, this one in particular, you have to be an education major. So all of you engineers, business majors, psychology majors, sorry, but you have to be intending to be, study education. There'll be others, don't worry. It just happens to be this one that is specific to education. But if you scroll down a little bit, and it says scholarships organized by deadlines. And so you can go by the month. And what we do is that we get them in, we post them by the month that they're due. So, so all of our September ones are there. And sometimes you'll see last year's, it'll say 2023, September of 2023. Don't necessarily disregard it. Sometimes it takes a little bit for the organization to give us an updated thing, but usually the link oftentimes still works even for last year's scholarship. They just haven't updated it in what they're sending us. But you can go, you can look ahead. What are the scholarships that are coming up? These are not directly always tied to a college. A lot of them are like the Coca-Cola scholarship is tied to that company. So you can go through and apply for those. And they require something. You have to fill out an application. You have to fill out, sometimes you have to write an essay. I recommend that you have an essay bank. And maybe you can reuse the essay from one scholarship to another because they tend to ask a lot of the same questions. Anecdote, I'll just give you a little story here, a quick story. I was a mean parent last year, made my daughter apply to about 30 scholarships like this. She didn't get anything, but I'm glad she did. She was nice and she did it, and she did a little complaining, but she still did it anyway. Now, my daughter's experience is not your experience because we had a number of students who did get get scholarships, and that's fantastic when they do. Sometimes it works out that you apply for something, you have a better chance of winning this than winning the lottery, if you think about it. So I would recommend that you go through those deadlines, those months, and maybe project. This was something that I did as the parent because I found that I could cull through. There's so many out there. I could cull through them, and I would just highlight the ones that I wanted her to apply to, and that's what we did. That was our system. I did the searching on scholarships. She did the filling out and the applying. Now, the colleges themselves have their own scholarships, which are on their websites, and kind of like what Amy was saying, sometimes if you apply by the early action deadline, you get, they might award you, an additional money, or they'll award what's called merit-based scholarships. They're looking at the student's grade point average, their courses that they've taken, and they said, oh, hey, we're going to award you the Dean Scholarship of $10,000 or whatever. So they have their own money that they give out on a merit-based system, which is separate from financial aid. Financial aid is, based on parent, family, and student income. So there's a lot of scholarship searches out there, a lot of search engines, which are great because they'll send it. Naviance actually has that in the college section of Naviance. Students and parents can search in Naviance and do a scholarship search. There are some search companies, platforms that ask for a fee. We recommend that you don't pay for such a fee because there's, it's a scholarship. You're looking to win the scholarship, to make, to earn some money, to get some free money there. So we recommend that you don't pay for a service. So I haven't heard of any that really had a positive outcome, where somebody paid for something and then they got money for it. So we haven't heard that. All right, so let's see. So we have about 5 more minutes. Does anybody else have any questions about this process? I did focus on the 4-year applications. There are 2-year applications. We have community colleges that students are applying for. We help students get those set up and get those going. So it's not just about the 4-year application. And we have students who don't go to college right after high school. We work with students in planning what they're doing after high school in regards to military careers, jobs, or whatever. So the vast majority of our students either will go to a 2 or a 4-year college, but we do have some that make other plans. So if you go to the high school website, so where do you find the scholarship information? Is you originally will go to the high school website, and students have this bookmark in their Chromebook. If they go to their student drop down, it says GHS Counseling Center, and then if they click on that, it comes right to this page right here. But as a parent, you don't obviously have that. You would go to the high school's website, scroll to the bottom, it'll say Counseling Center. You click on that. We're almost there. I brought the wrong glasses. Okay, and then visit the Guilderland High School Counseling Center site. You click there, and it brings you to this page. And then if you go up to where it says, what's that? Oh, it's right there. Oh, it's a link. Okay. Then, yep. And then it brings you to financial aid and scholarships. So, I don't know what you did. Okay. Sure. So we have some organized by, for seniors, for women, for men. And then as you go through, there might be some that are related to, there's college-specific ones. So really anything that comes into our office, we try to post and keep it updated there as things come in. Oh, sorry. So the question is, if a student has a job, they have work experience, absolutely, it can be added into the activity section. There, it says work, work paid. Yep. So there's volunteer, there's work. Sure. So the question is, if there's supplemental essays or information that colleges might ask on the Common Application. So, under the where it says My Colleges on the Common App, there's the list of colleges. So Amy's finding one that has. Okay, and then if you see where it says Questions, so these questions. Well, there's questions above, and those questions are only for Cornell University. So the colleges on the Common App can't see those answers because it only goes to Cornell, whereas the Common App, all that other information goes to all the colleges. So down there, writing supplement, so here this college, this university does have an extra essay for the student to do, and they would have to complete it on this section, so that when they're ready to submit, everything is done. This part also has to be done. The application can't be sent if not everything is complete. It'll tell you. It'll say you're missing, whatever, and it'll list the things that they're missing. So then the student would have to complete that supplemental essay as part of that application. Yep. No, you're good. Yeah, so on the writing section of the Common App that goes to all the colleges, it's the one essay prompt. Yeah, and and sometimes under the questions for the individual colleges, sometimes they'll say, do you have additional information that you wish to share? So if there was something that wasn't otherwise represented in the application, the student can add that in there. Yep. Any other question? Oh, yep. Oh, so I sent out my round 2 of emails because I got my first round people scheduled in, which is great. Round 2, there'll be round 3, then I'll be calling. So we meet with every senior. So I schedule, I think a lot of us schedule a half-hour block of time. It ends up being it depends on how much we need. We tell students, as often as you have a question, you're going to come in and ask. If you need 3 visits, we'll meet you 3 times. If you need 10 visits, we'll meet you with you 10 times. It just depends on, what the student needs. Yep. So we're this fall is a lot of time with seniors, which is the way it's supposed to be. It's a little bit of a complicated process. We understand that, so we want to spend as much time with students as needed.
So we have sent out our appointment calendar to students and asked them to sign up for a time, preferably not during class. Some students have shown up and said, yeah, my teacher's upset. I'm like, go to class, pick a different time. So I'm actually at the point where I'm starting to pull my students who have a study hall out of their study hall because I'm a little bit at a lull for people responding to set up appointments. So those of you who are here, please ask your children when you get home, if they're not with you, if they've set up their appointment, and if they haven't, look for the email that has our appointment schedule in it and they can set it up. It's just like the appointment schedule we sent out in the spring for parents to sign up for the appointment. I'm sure you're all very eager to get to the college fair, so we'll be around for questions, but we also want to let you go, and you're all being very polite and not just getting up and running out, and we appreciate that. But if you're ready to head to the college fair, that's great, and if you want to stay for a few questions, you are welcome to come up and ask questions. We are going to stop recording. Thank you all so much for coming. We really appreciate it.